Hello everyone, my name is Patricia White and I'm the Chief Executive of Suited for Success. Welcome to this workshop. Suited for Success is all about supporting people to make sure that first impression counts in a job interview. And now more than ever is it really crucial that you make a great first impression when it comes to going for job interviews, and that you have the edge. Because of the way that unemployment is at the moment, we want to make sure that you're fully prepared to make sure that that first impression that is really crucial when it comes to job interviews really do count. So just before I talk a little bit about Suited for Success and what we do, and also to tell you a little bit more about this workshop and some of the key points and things that I'll be talking to you about today, I'd like you to first introduce you to Niall. Niall is one of our clients that we've supported going for a job interview, and just wanted to kind of share this story. This is one of our favourite stories. We've got many stories at Suited for Success and some of the clients that we've helped to get into successful employment. But this is Niall before. This is Niall as we saw him when he came to Suited for Success. He'd been out of work quite some time, long-term unemployed. He'd got some experience on his CV, got great skills, great gift of the gab, but he didn't have any interview clothing to go for a job interview. But he thought, you know what, I've got a great CV, I've got the skills, I know the chat, I'm just going to explain to the employer when I get there that I don't have interview wear, but I know how to do the job. When he got to the job interview, ready to explain all of this to the employer, he rang in to come at the front door, and they wouldn't even let him in the front door because of how he was dressed. As you can see there, he's dressed in a hoodie, tracksuit and trainers. So Niall was really disappointed. Eventually, he was referred to Suited for Success and he was told about our work at Suited for Success. And this is how Niall left Suited for Success, ready to go for his next job interview. Look at that smile on his face, full of confidence, and I'm happy to say that he did get the next job that he went for. And when Niall was dressed in this suit, he looked at himself in the mirror and said, now this is how the employer wanted to see me when I came for the job interview, but obviously I was dressed the other way. So now I fully understand about first impressions and why they're so important. So I wanted to tell you a little bit more about Suited for Success and what we do. So we're a charity based in Birmingham, central Birmingham, and so we have a referral centre in central Birmingham, and we see clients that come to us in person for face-to-face support. We've had to pivot our services because of the COVID pandemic, and a lot of our services are now online and virtual. So we're able to expand our service, and we're able to allow more people to access our service that may not necessarily live in Birmingham or local to the Midlands. And we've been going 5 years now, and we've been here to help people into employment. And what we do is we give people free interview skills, free interview clothing and employment preparation to make sure that first impression counts when going for a job interview. So we do the interview prep with people, so we go through interview coaching, we do mock interviews, we do video interviewing practice for people that are feeling a little bit nervous or are going for job interviews, but they're not getting the job. So they're wondering, well, what am I doing wrong? So we'll kind of go through things with them. We'll go through people's CVs with them, and we'll go through how they may be going wrong in the job interview. We've got a fantastic team of volunteers, and many of our volunteers come from professional backgrounds. And we've got HR consultants, we've got managing directors, we've got various people that own businesses that are offering up their time as volunteers to say they want to support people into employment. So fantastic advice for people going for job interviews, straight from the horse's mouth, and straight from the people that would normally do the recruiting, and ready to give those fantastic tips and advice. So as well as the interview prep, we also dress people for job interviews as well. So we provide free interview clothing, and people come to our centre where they get given a free suit or a free interview outfit, a full interview outfit that can get them dressed for success, ready for that job interview. All of our clothing, we work with various retailers and people that kindly donate to our charity to make sure that we are able to provide really high quality interview clothing. So you've only got one chance to make that great first impression when it comes to a job interview. So we're going to go through a few points and a few tips and tricks and a bit of advice today in this workshop session. So in this workshop session, we're going to look at dressing for success and doing an interview for success and interviewing for success. So we've only got a short time in this session, so I'm going to see what we can do and what we can get through. And there's also an opportunity for you to attend a Q&A session where you'll be able to ask me any more questions that you may have and anything that I've mentioned in this workshop session. So first of all, let's go through this. So did you know that it only takes 90 seconds to make a great first impression in a job interview? And this is based on research. This is based on the research with recruitment consultants, hiring managers, that they say within the first 90 seconds of seeing somebody, they have decided already whether that person's going to get the job or not. 90 seconds, not very long, is it? So the first 10 seconds is where you make the best first impression, a crucial first impression. And then after a couple of minutes, they've already decided whether you're going to get the job or not. So this is based solely on whether you look the part or look right for the job, or will you fit in easily to the organisation and to the company. So we're going to talk about what can you do to make a great first impression. You've only got a couple of minutes to do that. So what is it based on? What is the first impression based on? So these are the key three areas that a first impression is based on. So the main thing is how you're dressed, how you act and how you walk through the door. I mean, obviously this is where you've got a face-to-face job interview, but also if it's a virtual interview, which we'll touch on both today, if it's a virtual interview, it's how you come across when you first come onto the screen, when you first enter the video call. That is part of your first impression. Then they say it's the quality of your voice and your grammar and your confidence. So it's how you come across when you say good morning or the first words that come out of your mouth. Is it quite quiet and not very confident, or is it quite bold and quite strong? And you're happy to be there as well. And then it's also about the words that you say. So it's only 7% in terms of the words that you say. So the words are around how you answer the questions when they're asking you various questions and you're giving various examples. So the main thing, as we can see here, it's how you look and how you act and how you walk through the door or start the conversation if it's a virtual interview. And also the quality of your voice as well. And if you come across confident, one of the main things that employers are looking for is how confident you come across. So that, as I mentioned in the first half of this workshop session, we're going to look at dressing for success. Clothes are really, really important when it comes to job interviews. It shouldn't be a second thought, or it shouldn't be, oh, well, I'll prepare for the interview and then I'll see what I've got in my wardrobe before I go to the job interview. It's, as we saw in the previous slide, that it's one of the most important things is how you look when it comes to your first impression. And don't forget, you've only got 90 seconds. So how we dress, it's not just about how the employer perceives us, but it's also about how you perceive yourself. It's about you looking and feeling great. It's about how confident you feel in what you're wearing. So in how you perceive yourself and how you come across in a professional manner. So it's not only what the employer sees and how they perceive you, but it's also about how you perceive yourself. So let's go through some basics when it comes to dressing for success. As I've mentioned, clothes do matter. It's not just a case of seeing what's in your wardrobe before you go for your job interview and throwing something on. It really does matter in terms of how you come across. We get many clients that come back to us and they will say the first thing the hiring manager or the employer said to them in the interview is, "You look great. That's a nice tie. You look great in that suit. You've turned up really, really, really polished and really put together. So it does matter, and they do notice in terms of what you've got on. Colours, style, fit, all really important. When it comes to colours, for example, stay quite neutral. Stay away from really loud colours, really bold patterns and garish patterns and things like that. Just keep it simple and keep it quite neutral. When it comes to the fit, make sure it's a good fitted, either a suit or a dress, for example. It's not too tight or it's not too baggy, but it's, it fits well and you look great in what you've got on. And then the style, we'll talk more about style in a moment, because it's about, have you done the research for that particular job or that particular company in terms of the way, what you wear to the job interview. But we're not talking about how fashionable you look. We're not talking about, whether you're wearing the latest trends and things like that. But what we're talking about is, do you know much about the business that you're applying to or going for the interview to, in terms of how you dress for the interview? And that all comes across in terms of whether you've done your research. Keep it covered. What I mean by this is about not showing too much flesh. So, for example, for the ladies, making sure that your tops aren't too low down. And even for the gentlemen, making sure that your buttons are done up, or your buttons are not too low, or you've got too low a cut top. And also for the ladies again, when it comes to skirts, making sure that your skirts aren't too high up, that they're knee length or below the knee, especially when it comes to sitting down. One of the things we always say to ladies when we dress them is that the skirt looks great or the dress looks great. Now sit down, let's see how high the dress or the skirt comes up. So to keep it covered. Another thing that we want to look at is understanding the industry. So as I've mentioned before, when it comes to the style of the clothing that you're wearing, so for example, if you're going for a retail job, you wouldn't really want to turn up in a three-piece suit for a retail job, because with retail it's a little bit more casual, or it's smart casual, but we always recommend that you go smart, polished and well put together. But then on the other end of the scale, if you're going for maybe a job in corporate business or banking or finance or anything like that, then you make sure that you turn up in a suit, because in those particular sectors they'll most definitely be wearing that sort of attire for those particular jobs. So you make sure you do that. There's an interesting research that's been done where we call it no brown shoes. So the research has said that in particular in the finance sector, there's kind of an unwritten rule that you kind of dress very traditionally, that there's black shoes and not brown shoes, and things like that. It's even down to the colour of the suits and things like that, because you understand the industry that you're going for. And also, as I've mentioned before, do your research. For example, if you're going for a job in retail, maybe wear an item of clothing or your outfit that is what would normally be sold by that particular retailer. If you're going for a job in a creative industry, or if you're going for a job in a tech industry, then you kind of do your research. You could even look at the company website to see how people dress at the particular business, just so that you can turn up and you actually look the part. You look ready to go for that job, or you actually still already fit into that company. Build your wardrobe. So don't be a lastminute.com person. We've had many clients that come to us and their job interview is like the next day. We even have clients where their job interview is the very same day that they're coming to see us. So the night before, they've looked in their wardrobe and decided actually they don't have anything to wear to the job interview. What are they going to do? So we see them in the morning, their job interview is in the afternoon. Recently we saw a gentleman where his interview was at 11 o'clock in the morning, so we dressed him at 9:30 in the morning. He left us by 10:15. He got to the job interview by 10:45. However, by 11:30, 11:45, he'd actually got the job, which was fantastic. And one of the things that the employer said to him is, wow, you've really made an effort for this interview. And he said to the employer, I really want this job. So that was fantastic, a fantastic news story there. Again, by one of our clients. Other basics we want to look at is about the grooming side of things, making sure that you look and you feel great. When it comes to your hair and your makeup, you look great from head to toe. I know when it comes to virtual job interviews, you may think to yourself, well, they can't really see me. It's not like a proper face-to-face interview. But what we say is that you turn up to a virtual interview the same way that you would turn up to a face-to-face interview. So you've done your hair. Gentlemen, you've groomed if you've got a beard. Ladies, wearing a little bit of makeup if you do wear makeup, but it's not a necessity that you have to wear makeup. But we will say to the ladies, for example, if you say to wear nail varnish, for example, that you make sure that your nail varnish is not chipped and it looks untidy. I mean, even looking at me, I'm talking to you, I'm on screen, and because I do a lot of hand gestures, that you can actually see my nails, and that may be the same case for yourself as well. But if you're not used to wearing makeup, there's no need to wear makeup. But what they do say, especially if you're on screen, that you can come across quite drawn or look like you've just got out of bed if you just kind of don't brighten yourself up a little bit. So just a little bit of lipstick and things like that. And then also the grooming, as I've mentioned as well. Smelling great. So for example, with a face-to-face interview, that's important, more important, that you smell great, you've had a shower and things like that, which I know is just real basic stuff. But making sure that if you do wear any perfume or cologne, that it's not really overpowering for the interviewer, that you just keep it quite soft. But then I've recently saw a great debate on LinkedIn, and somebody asked, do you wear perfume when you go to a virtual meeting? So nobody can smell you when you're doing a video call. However, it's about yourself. It's about you feeling great about yourself. And even myself doing this workshop session online, I've actually got perfume on because it makes me feel great and makes me feel confident. So it's all about turning up to the interview. Jewellery, when it comes to jewellery, simple is best. So not jewellery that is really too cracked, it's really over the top, really brash, makes lots of noises and things. Just keep it nice and simple when it comes to jewellery. But it's nice to accessorise your outfit as best you can. And as I mentioned earlier on, don't be a lastminute.com. Make sure that you have got something in your wardrobe ready to wear for a job interview. So some of you may be thinking, well, I've not had a job interview in a while, or it could be that you don't know when your next job interview is, and you're thinking, well, I'll sort it out once I get an invitation for a job interview, and that's too late. You need to start looking now at building your wardrobe in terms of your interview clothing. And if you are struggling with interview clothing, this is where Suited for Success can come in, and we can support you with free interview clothing to make sure you make that first impression count. I love this role. We work with many hiring managers, directors, CEOs of companies, and when we do meet those people, we always ask them, what makes a great first impression for you? What do you look for in a good first impression? And I love this role, and I've never forgotten it. It was one of the directors of the National Grid, and he said to me, Patricia, I look at the third rule, the top third and the bottom third. So how do you look on the top? So it's how you're groomed and whether you look tidy and put together. And then the bottom third, he says he looks at somebody's shoes and whether they're polished or whether they're scruffy. And it tells a lot about the person if they're well put together and they're tidy. It will also speaks a lot about who they are, but also will their work be tidy? Will they be organised when it comes to giving them the job? It's all part of it, and it's all part of the process. So we're now going to move on and talk about the interview. So interviews are being done very differently now because of the COVID pandemic. So a lot of interviews are taking place virtually, so whether it be on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Skype, and that's going to stay. It's here to stay. Doing it virtual or virtual interviews are here to stay. But face-to-face interviews will come back as well. So employers will choose, depending on the job sector, depending on the job vacancy, employers will choose whether to do interviews by video or do interviews face-to-face. Employers may choose to do a video virtually if it's the first stages of an interview process. And then the second stage may be that it will be a first and face-to-face interview. So on this section, we're just going to quickly talk about making a great first impression for both a virtual interview and a face-to-face interview. I remember that I said at the beginning of the workshop session that within those 90 seconds of making sure that first impression counts, it's all non-verbal. It's how you look, how you act, and how you've presented yourself in the first couple of seconds of that interview. How you walk in the room, for example, and sit down and say good morning, or is how you enter a virtual video call or virtual interview, and it's those first couple of minutes. So just going to talk about some of the non-verbal common mistakes that people make. The biggest one is smiling. Smiling, whether you come in online in a virtual call and you're smiling, or whether you enter the room and you're smiling. Interviewers are looking for confidence, and how confident is this person? If you're a person that's not used to smiling, you don't like to smile, but make sure you do smile at an interview. Because it is one of the most important things that you need to do. Every employer is looking for a warm, friendly person. Will this person fit into the organisation, fit into the company? Is this person happy to be here? Does this person want the job? That's all said through smiling. Body language, some of these things that you may already know, you may already think about, but you just need to be conscious about that when you're in your job interviews. Whether it's a face-to-face interview, that you're sat up straight, you're not slouching or anything like that in an interview. Even the way you cross your legs and you're sat on the chair is really, really important in terms of a positive body language. Also, when you're doing a virtual call, that you're sat up straight on the video call as well in terms of your body language. One of the non-verbal mistakes, I know when it comes to researching the company, you talk about the company, but it's how confident you are talking about the company, whether the employer knows whether you've researched the company or not. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to an interview is not knowing anything about the company that they're going for the job for and they've applied for. It's a real pet hate for employers and recruiting managers. Also as well, with face-to-face interviews, soon, hopefully, we'll be able to shake hands again. But a weak handshake, it's like you kind of want to do a handshake or you kind of don't want to. If you're invited to do a handshake, make sure it's a strong handshake with the employer. Fidgeting, no eye contact, those are also big no-nos in terms of non-verbal mistakes and communication. It's all about confidence. If you're fidgeting too much, it's like you're really, I know we're nervous at interviews, one of those things that a lot of people are nervous about, but try not to fidget. If you are a fidgeter, find a way that you don't fidget a lot. And then also eye contact, that's another big one, and that comes down to confidence and how confident the person is, and being able to give eye contact is a big way of showing how confident you are in talking to the employer. So let's just finally just talk a little bit about video interviews, because video interviews, I think there's more that goes into making a great first impression when it comes to video interviews. And I know they can be quite nerve-wracking for people, especially a lot of people that are not used to the computers or technology. So it has been a big change for people. So one of the key things in terms of making a great first impression is making sure that you've checked your technology, making sure that you, for example, you've got a great, strong internet connection, so you're not faffing about at the beginning or within the interview, where you're having to check your internet or your internet dropped out and things like that. It's really distracting. Making sure that things like your laptop's charged, for example, so you're not having to apologise and say, I'm ever so sorry, I'm going to have to go and plug my laptop in, or things like that. Other things that you want to make sure of is you know the platform, or you've kind of prepared for the platform that you'll be interviewed on, whether it be Microsoft Teams, Zoom. There's so many different platforms that the employer may use. So make sure that you've practiced and you've looked at the platform. You've maybe got the app on your phone or your laptop, so that you know that you'll be able to log in on the day. For example, one of the common mistakes that people make is not putting the app on their laptop and maybe leaving it till the day of the interview, the morning of the interview, and it takes a long time to load, or it doesn't work at all, and then you have to really faff about with it before the interview. And prepare for the interview like it's a face-to-face interview. Just because it's via video doesn't make it any less important than it would do if it was a face-to-face interview. So making sure that you prepare for that. Controlling your surroundings. We've all seen these viral videos where somebody's on they're doing an interview on the news, or they're having an interview, a job interview, and then the cat falls off the wardrobe in the background, or you've got children running behind or coming in and things like that. So to control your surroundings. So, for example, if you do have pets, to maybe put them in another room or put them outside, and also to check the surroundings and check that it's tidy, neat and tidy, that you haven't got washing on the rack behind, or your bed's unmade, and things like that, and just random things happening behind you, that you've got something that's quite neutral behind you, a neutral wall or a nice picture or a plant or something behind you, nothing that's going to be too distracting for the employer. And also one of the other things is, where are you looking as well? So one of the key questions that I get asked about with video interviews is that, do I look at the camera or do I look at the screen? So you can look at either or, but if you're looking at the screen, that you make sure that the screen you're just looking at the employer. So you can change the settings on the screen, so you're looking at a full screen, so you're looking at the employer, that it's not side by side, whether you're on one side, the employer's on the other, and you're looking away from the employer, that you're still maintaining that eye contact with the employer. Another great tip, where I am now, I'm talking to you, I'm actually standing and my laptop is on a box, so I'm able to look directly at you without sitting down, because so I can maintain that eye contact with you. So it's really important in terms of where you're looking at the screen and that you're keeping eye contact with the employer. And also as well, how you come across in the interview on face-to-face, when you're in the room with somebody, it's really easy for them to see your personality and how you come across and things like that. But on video, you have to go a little bit more of an extra mile to be able to do that. So a nice big smile, maybe bigger than you would do normally, and also the energy that comes across as well. Maybe has to just bump it up a little bit because you're on a virtual call. So just some of the things, and don't forget, these are all before you've even started the interview or started answering those questions and giving those great examples, that you've got all these things in line, and it all contributes to making that great first impression. So I hope that a lot of those tips have helped you in terms of, going for your next job interview and making sure that you have that edge, making sure that you're well prepared. And Suited for Success is available to help you. Here's some of our contact details where you can get in touch with us. On our website, we've got lots of information about the work that we do. We've also got masterclasses and webinars and things like that to be able to look at. Sorry, Natalie, I'm just going to say that bit again. I've just kind of messed up a bit there. So I hope you found the information. Useful in this workshop session in terms of making that great first impression count when it comes to a job interview. Suited for Success is here to help you if you need any additional support, if you would like some interview coaching, if you'd like mock interviews, or maybe practicing doing a video interview. We're here to support you to do that. And also, if you require any interview clothing, we can support in that as well, and it's all free of charge. We're a registered charity and we're here to support you back into work. Appointments with us can be booked online. You can also find us on various social media platforms as well. Don't forget to come to the Q&A session with the experts, where you can ask the questions in terms of what we've been talking about in this session, and hopefully this information has helped you making sure that you're ready for success for your next job interview.